Welcome everyone, my name's Dom, and this is the Sony Xperia.
Welcome everyone, my name's Dom, and I love Apple, like a lot.
What the hell is this?
What the hell is what?
This, you. Oh, don't be stupid. You know this is all scripted and I'm just you edited in the video in post. Look, Dom, don't get meta with me, okay? Why would I edit another me into the video? Well, I represent your Apple side, and I'm here to stop you from making another video. Wait a sec. What are you talking about? Why are you doing another review on an Android phone? What was wrong with the Galaxy Note 10 review? Dude, nobody even watched that video, and you're about to do another phone review for a phone that's not an iPhone? Like, what? No, it's not about the views. Dude, it's about perspective, and it's hard to make a convincing argument about what makes something good or bad without knowing anything about both sides.
That's stupid.
It's not stupid. Look, another product being great doesn't stop Apple products, or any other product for that matter, from also being a great product.
Okay, so what's your point?
My point is that this channel is about discussing all the things that are right and wrong with our technology. Not to take sides or convince anyone to choose my side or the other. It's all about what works and what doesn't.
Fine, whatever. We both know that that phone cannot keep up with an actual iPhone. So go ahead and do your stupid video like I care.
And this is exactly why people don't like Apple fans. And this phone is pretty legit. So if you just take a second, get Steve Jobs' out of your ears and listen, I think you'll find this video to be perfect for Apple fans and Android fans alike.
All right, fine. Let's see what you have to say about the Sony Xperia 2 or 3 or whatever.
The Sony Xperia 1 Mark III.
You could Xperia 1 this dick.
Shut the up! So this is the Sony Xperia 1 III, or Mark III as I've been calling it, which is way cooler sounding. I'm going to be completely honest here. This review was hard to do. Every time I thought I was ready to give my opinion, I noticed something new about the phone that I knew I just had to dig into more. And what I found with this phone is that it's incredible. Let me tell you what I mean by that. This phone has top-notch specs through and through. Fast processor, an insane amount of RAM, expandable storage, a freaking 4K display that can run at double the refresh rate of your typical phone from 60 to 120 hertz, making it feel, so smooth. It has 5G. It's super thin. 30-watt fast charging with the 30-watt fast charger in the box. And oh boy, is it fast. There's an LED notification light at the top of the phone, which I love so very much. It has a headphone jack, which I actually think is more meant to be used for a microphone with this phone when recording video, because this phone is all about the camera system. This camera system, the camera system in this phone is remarkable. And I don't think I have even come close to really tapping into its potential until you start to work with the phone, that is. And then you realize that this phone costs $1,300. And that $1,300 cannot be done with any kind of carrier installment plan, which for everything I just said, you may think, all right, sure, it's expensive, right? But that's what happens when you want a top-notch phone. Yeah, a top-notch phone with a copy of Call of Duty on it that you can't uninstall. And I know there are Android folk out there that will tell me that I can just disable it and all the other bloatware apps that come pre-installed, or that I can remove them with ADB, but that's not the point here. When you pay top dollar for hardware, you should be getting a top tier experience as well. It would be like if you bought a super high-end graphics card, and in order to use it, you had to install a game that you never had any intention of playing. Sure, you could just delete the shortcut and never look at it again, but that's not the point. This phone is targeted at hardcore photographers, not gamers. So why the hell this unrelated app is in the phone seems to be nothing more than an extra way for Sony to make money off a phone that is already ridiculously expensive. Getting past all that, once you disable the bloatware apps, you're left with pretty much an entirely stock Android experience in this regard. But let's get back into the physical features of this phone first, because I'm sure that the first thing a bunch of you watching this video noticed was this is a tall boy with a 21:9 aspect ratio, which is the same as some of those super wide monitors. Yeah, that makes this phone probably one of the most comfortable phones I've held in a long time. Color accuracy of the screen is phenomenal, and it has two modes that you can switch between, which are that's a standard over bloomy, more saturated color profile you'd see on a lot of Samsung phones, and a more true tone lifelike profile that Sony describes as creator mode. provide a faithful reproduction of the creator's intended vision through 4K display and specially developed image processing compatible with BT 2020 color gamut and 10-bit color of HDR specification, which is again made even more amazing by the 120 Hz refresh rate, making all of this stuff feel smooth and responsive. That being said, the brightness is good enough for indoor viewing, but not great for outdoor viewing when there's a lot of sunlight out. The screen is paired with some symmetrical stereo speakers, which are loud and sound very nice. And well, I honestly don't know how else to describe this, but it has the literal perfect weight for a phone. No joke. The Xperia feels, I don't know, like light enough that it will never make your arm or hand tired while you're holding it for a long period of time. And yet it's heavy enough as to not feel cheap. Like it feels like it's made out of premium products. The full array of buttons are located on the right side of the phone, which include the volume rocker, power, and lock button with fingerprint sensor built in, Google Assistant button, and a 2-stage camera button that not only engages the camera even when the phone is fully locked, but by it being 2-stage, allows you to preset your focus. I've noticed with modern phones that the button layout is starting to standardize, and I would have preferred the volume rocker on the left side of the phone, but that's just me. Moving on to the back, you'll see the surprisingly compact camera bump and the matte soft touch glass with a simple glossy Sony logo on it, which really adds to that premium feel. So when I pre-ordered the phone from Amazon, they gave me a pair of the 1000 XM3s for the phone. So, if you guys want to see me do a review of some kind or some comparisons with this, let me know down below. I could do a comparison of Android, like AirPods versus this. So definitely hit that like button. Let me know if you want to see something like that. And then there's the camera with 4 available lenses that vary widely from like the ultra wide all the way to a 4.4 times zoom. You have some pretty nice options here for a camera. And this phone, if I'm not mistaken, is the first smartphone to have a variable zoom lens via telescoping. What I mean by that is the zoom lens in the phone is actually shifted horizontally. Like a submarine, telescope, it uses the mirror to kind of bounce light off into it to give you, a 2.9 all the way up to a 4.4 times optical zoom. But pictures taken with the zoom lenses are mediocre at best. The rolling shutter is so bad that I don't feel very confident about taking pictures with the zoom lenses unless I have a lot of light and the subject is really, really still. The ultra-wide camera is all right, but the main camera is where this thing really shines. Unlike other smartphones in this bracket, the Xperia doesn't do all that AI-based post-processing stuff, at least none that I can tell, and it doesn't have any of that artificial smoothing either. Actually, there's like a setting, I think, and you can turn that off, but the point is that the pictures are taken just as they're seen, and I love it. Sharp and clear and phenomenal color accuracy makes the camera in this thing a gem. And when it's used properly with the Sony camera app that's pre-installed and doesn't have, the most user-friendly interface, you can pull off some really stunning shots. Now, like I said before, the camera app itself is not particularly user-friendly, and I think that's the point. It's not supposed to be. It's filled with settings that a photographer or videographer would be familiar with. And while the app does have some like fully auto modes and, some simple modes for taking pictures, you're not restricted to taking pictures the way that the phone thinks is best. It's an enthusiast phone, and I really feel like some of the other bigger YouTubers who review this phone kind of dialed it in a bit because, yeah, there's so much more to this phone if you test it for what it was actually made for. And when it's all said and done, if I had to sum it all up, this phone is for people who want a fully featured camera on themselves as often as possible. And so the market for this phone is very niche. And this is why I assume Sony is selling this phone directly, no installment plans or anything like that. One last note though, however, even with the excellent camera, I can't say the pictures it takes are so much better that it entirely beats out Samsung Galaxy Notes or the Ultra cameras and the iPhones or anything like that. And when you consider that those phones can arguably do a bit more, if not significantly more, out of the box than this phone can, and it also costs less than the Xperia, not to mention those phones can go on installment plans and will have longer support for things like security updates and what have you, it's hard to recommend this phone for anyone who isn't going to take full advantage of the camera. Being able to trigger the camera by just pressing the shutter button down, even when the phone is locked, without having to look at your screen or do any of that extra engagement, is honestly one of the best elements about this phone's camera system. You're not held back. You're able to just get the picture, no strings attached. And so that, my friends, is how we do an Android phone review.
You know what? You were right. That was a pretty good review. Not bad, right? Yup, I learned a ton about Android today, and I can see why people like them. Thanks for opening up my mind to new thoughts and experiences.
Glad I could help. And if you agree, definitely throw a like on this video. And if you're new here, please consider subscribing and check out some other videos. And, says this all the time, please consider sharing the video. It helps the channel out a lot. And always talk to you soon. iPhone's still better. Mother!